I'm Brian, and this is Game Story Basics. Let's talk about character arcs. So key characters in a story will change over the course of the story, and a lot of your colleagues and other people will talk about character arcs, but what they're actually describing is who the character is at the end of the story versus who they were at the beginning. But a change, a binary change from A to B or 0 to 1 is not an arc. It's a straight line. And in real life, and in great game stories, no one changes in a straight line. Change is messy. Change does not happen in a straight line. It happens in an arc. So let's look at an example character arc. Let's take a character. Her name is Jane McGee. As you can see, I'm really good at naming characters. Okay, so she had this great childhood, protective parents, a little bit sheltered. She is naive. At the end of the story, she's going to be wise. So how do you get from naive to wise? That would be a weird straight line to travel, right? The fact is she's going to go through an arc. So here's our example. When Jane goes out into the world and she encounters the horror and cruelty and suffering in the world that most of us are to some degree familiar with, but she is not. She becomes traumatized. She builds walls, she gets a thick skin, she shuts down, she stops trying to contribute to anything. She's processing what she has seen. It doesn't match her view of the world, and she's trying to process it. Eventually, she is able to process the trauma, and that's when she becomes an idealist. The sheltered background that she comes from kind of reasserts itself in the light of this new revelation, and she goes, this is not the way the world should be. The world is wrong, and it's supposed to be another way, and I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get to work to make it better. That's an idealist. That's someone who thinks there is a should in the world. But now, the bad things that she's witnessed and become aware of start to happen to her. And that's a big difference when the bad thing actually happens to you. And that turns her into a cynic. Suddenly, there is no more should in the world. It's not the way the world should be. It's the way the world is. And the way the world is real bad. So Jane kind of realizes that a pessimist will never be disappointed. And she accepts, like, this is just the way it is. Things are bad. You should just try to figure out how to survive and not expect anything better. She's a cynic. But even there, over time, she will start to see there are good things in the world too. There are. And there are people who are trying to make the world better. There are people who haven't accepted this cynical view that this is just how the world is. And so once again, her core background kind of asserts itself, and she goes, I can be hopeful. Yes, the world is bad. And it's not even that the world that should be a certain way. That was back when I was an idealist. But now I accept that this is the way it is, but maybe we can make it better. That's hopeful. She goes into being hopeful. Now, over time, she takes the final step, and Jane becomes wise. This is where she has internalized the negative and positive lessons. She's internalized the fact that the world's bad and bad things happen, and she's internalized that there are things you can do to make it better, and there are good things, and you should focus on the good and try to be aware of but deal with the bad. That's wisdom, right? So she's gone through all of these stages, and it's important to note that none of these stages are inevitable, right? She could have literally gone out into the world as a naive character, become traumatized, and just stopped there, and just been a traumatized character and never moved on. The arc the arc is a mechanical thing, but after you're done sort of mapping it out mechanically, stop thinking of it mechanically. Start thinking of it in terms of character and who your character is and why they make those steps and how long do they sit at a particular stage of their arc. All of that stuff is dependent on who they are, right? The manner and speed of the arc are due to the character. And that is it for character arcs. That's all for now. I'll see you on the next one.